Keeping the decision makers on their toes for more than 15 years. This is Late Night Counsell on 580 CFRA.
Here's Tom in Ottawa. How you doing, Tom?
Oh, pretty good, John. I'm getting
It's
all
Tom
geared.
Harris, folks, from ClimateChangeInternational.org. If I got it wrong, no, it's give it to me again.
Climate Science International.
ClimateScienceInternational.org.
Yeah, that's right.
See, it's not my organization, so it's easy for me to forget.
Ontario's on the verge of getting a carbon tax. The plan is to bring it in the spring, unless the public, of course, object enough. And tomorrow, Wednesday night, at the RA Centre, they're having a public town hall where people can give their input as to whether or not they want us to have more tax, this time to stop climate change.
Yeah, well, let's call it, okay, first of all, you and I know, Tom, it's not a carbon tax.
That's for sure.
It is a superstition tax,
Yeah.
okay? Because nobody has proven one iota that we are causing any type of climate change whatsoever, okay? I mean, and record cold temperatures, even record cold temperatures on the eastern seaboard and really around the world, because there were record cold temperatures that were set in Russia and in Asia as far back as 5 years ago. Even record cold temperatures have not got Ontarians' attention, whereas, the climate change hysteria people, this, okay?
Yeah.
They were brilliant when they stopped calling it global warming because they knew that wasn't happening. Now, the electorate in Ontario is so unbelievably stupid that they've even got the climate change hysteria people have even got everybody believing that even when it's really, really cold, that's our fault too.
Yeah, and even when temperature hasn't changed in 18 years, we're causing global warming.
This is,
Well, Glenn Murray wrote...
Tom, you're a very positive guy. You know why I like when you come on? Because you tell us about some of the victories that are being won worldwide on this.
Oh, yeah.
Because the media doesn't tell us. The media tells us time and time and time again, the science is settled. 97% of all scientists agree that we are causing climate change, which is the biggest crock, that's out there.
I think we're going to see a repeat of what we saw in 2002 when the federal government went around the country and they, asked people, what do you think we should do to stop the climate from changing? And, of course, the whole thing was like out of 1984. You remember in 1984 they had the Ministry of Truth.
I know, yeah.
Where they actually rewrote history. They changed the facts to meet government policy.
And you know that even data on climate data is being fudged now by respected organizations simply for the purpose of ramrodding through an agenda that's got nothing to do with climate whatsoever and has everything to do with a few select people getting rich on the technologies that have proven to be not worth the money that's spent on them.
Oh, yeah, and also to give government a great deal more control over our lives. This carbon tax, because that's effectively what it is.
Superstition tax.
Yeah, they call it carbon pricing, which, of course, is also a misnomer because it really is carbon dioxide. We're not pricing diamonds or graphite. This is carbon dioxide, which is benign, and they want to put a price on that so that effectively it either is a direct tax on us or it'll be just adding to the price of everything we buy. And I mean everything, like not just driving and fuel and things like that, but even when you get a haircut.
Tom, I got to go to the news. I want to keep you on hold, okay?
Yeah.
Can we yak about this at the opening of the second hour? Tom Harris from Climate Science International, always welcome on this program. And if you're on hold, you're getting on the air, I promise you, okay? But I want to make sure that, Tom can be heard here. One of the most respected callers we have and one of the most respected guests we ever have on this program. We're right back after this for hour number 2. Stay with us.
Keeping the decision makers on their toes for more than 15 years. This is Late Night Counsell on 580 CFRA.
Welcome back. Hour number 2. Tom Harris from ClimateScienceInternational.org is with us. Now, is there something going on in Toronto tomorrow, Tom?
Well, actually, it's at the RA Centre tomorrow evening here in Ottawa on Riverside Drive.
Okay.
Yeah, and it starts at 6 p.m., and it's open to all the public. The government wants to know what we think of their strategy to price carbon, whether or not, and carbon is the wrong term, of course, it's carbon dioxide. And in particular, in announcing this discussion plan, it's actually a climate change discussion paper that the whole 6 to 8 p.m. meeting is about at the RA Centre.
You're going to be there, right?
Oh, yeah.
Attaboy.
Anyway, here's what Glenn Murray
Now, hold
said.
it. What's the chances of you getting shut down again like they usually do when they have questions come forward that they don't want to answer?
Well, that's going to be a really good question. What people have suggested is that if quite a few people go and that happens, then the next person at the microphone should say, well, I'd like to hear an answer to that question. In other words, they just get after them over and over. Now, if that only happens once or twice, the media may ignore it. But if you have a dozen people all going to the microphone saying, look, Mr. Murray, when you announced this policy, because it's Ontario Environment Minister Glenn Murray who announced the climate change discussion paper, he said there is no, and this is his words, there is no greater threat to mankind than climate change. Our children will be the first to never know a normal climate. Okay, so this is like Suzuki times 10, and they are going to charge us hundreds of billions of dollars through taxes and other fees based on this.
That will do nothing. That will do absolutely nothing.
Yeah, and it's going to be in the spring budget in one form or another. They're saying it's not going to be a tax, but if they do cap and trade, it'll be a tax anyway because it'll increase the prices of
tomorrow night at the RA Center.
Exactly. Now the sad
6 o'clock?
6 o'clock until 8 o'clock. At the RA Center, 2451 Riverside Drive between Bank and Bronson. Now, the interesting thing is the main opposition to the carbon dioxide pricing, which is what it really is, the Tories, Jim Wilson, who's their leader for the Ontario Conservatives, he is only focusing on the cost. They are completely paranoid, completely afraid of the environmentalists to even say what you just said, namely they're charging us all this money, taxes, cap and trade and everything for things that are probably based on a fantasy. Now, as long as we don't talk about the fact that the whole thing is pointless and that the confidence of the minister, he said, for example, in the very beginning of the discussion paper, he said, now remember, this is a guy who studied at Concordia University School in Public Affairs for 4 years with a major in urban studies. So he might have been a good mayor of Winnipeg, but he doesn't have any background in science, and yet he comes across more definite than any scientist ever would. He said, the planet is on track to warm by 4 degrees this century. Okay, this is crazy. No scientist knows that. We don't even really know if we're headed for warming or cooling. But the Minister of the Environment for Ontario, he knows the future. So, I mean, what we really need is for people to go there and say, look, go back to the drawing board. Talk to scientists on both sides. Hear the whole story. This should not be a political decision only. It should be based on science.
So those of you that know your science and those of you that have an inkling to, stop a horrendous waste of money, okay, you need to be at the RA Center tomorrow at 6 o'clock, between 6 and 8, when the government is actually, it wants to pretend that it's listening to the public on this whole superstition tax issue that they've called a carbon tax. And Tom Harris is going to be there. But I know, Tom, you could use a few allies there to really put the brakes to this thing. This is insane.
Yeah, because you can be sure Ecology Ottawa and the Sierra Club, they're all going to be there booing me and cheering the government for, we're going to effectively maybe have a 15% tax, instead of the HST of 13%. Who knows what's going to come out of this, but it's going to be very expensive.
Tom, appreciate you coming on and warning us. Well, I'm going to get that out on Twitter tonight and get as many people informed as possible.
Yep, thanks a lot.
Thank you, Tom.
Bye.
ClimatescienceInternational.org. Good catch-all, folks, if you want common sense discussion on climate change and not a bunch of hysteria that's based on fudged facts to promote and ramrod through a political agenda. ClimatescienceInternational.org.
CFRA. The callers are screened. The host is not. You've been warned. This is Late Night Counsell on 580 CFRA.
And Tom Harris has sent me the details on the meeting at the RA Center tomorrow at 6 p.m. If you do not want a carbon tax in Ontario, you need to be at the RA Center tomorrow at 6 p.m., okay? And I've tweeted out the details. And if you go to Late Night Counsell Facebook page, you can see it there as well. I hope a ton of you show up there, because I don't think they're expecting any pushback at all from the public, and I think they need a lot of pushback.